Hey guys, Amna Nawaz here live in New York. We want to bring you now some breaking news happening right here in New York City. We're going to go live now to Times Square where my colleague Benitez is on the scene of what appears to be a deadly car crash. Gio, what can you tell us right now about the latest there in Times Square?
Well, Amna, I can tell you right now, people are very concerned, obviously, because we have all of this shut down. That's the Good Morning America studio right there. We see that there's a sort of destroyed bumper there. We know that the car sort of traveled a few blocks and ended up on its side, potentially on fire. We see images of a smoking car over there on the other side, over on 45th Street and Broadway. This is a huge spot for tourists. Now we know that at least 12 people have been injured. At least one person has been killed so far. We do not believe at this point, the NYPD tells us that they do not believe this is connected to terrorism. That's very important, but we don't know at this point if this was an accident. We don't know at this point what could have caused this, but we do know that the driver is 26 years old. He's already in police custody, they say, and he has a past with DUIs and possibly even a suspended license. They believe that he panicked after this crash and then just tried to make a run for it, and that's when they say they apprehended him. That's why he's in custody. So we're still trying to figure out exactly how many people are injured, potentially dead. 12 people injured so far, at least one person dead.
Gio, we're seeing now live pictures from right there in Times Square, an absolutely mangled car there, as you mentioned, sort of halfway on its side, up on the sidewalk and against some of the posts there. And as you mentioned, of course, this driver, we now know officials have confirmed 2 DWIs on his record. We also learned that he tried to flee before being taken into custody. What are people on the ground there saying right now? Because as you mentioned, this is a huge tourist hub. There are a lot of people coming through there every day.
And you know, not only Amna is it a tourist hub, but this is a place that is constantly talked about as being a threat to terrorism. Constantly. It's mentioned in the ISIS videos, so immediately you can imagine so many people here were just immediately thinking about that. But thankfully right now we know that, at least according to the NYPD and what they know right now, there is no connection to terrorism, but that this appears to be an accident. But again, we're still looking at this. And I have a little bit more about this 26-year-old driver. He's a Bronx man, and he appears to have made a wrong turn on 7th Avenue, which is right here, just near that famous Broadway, and he was driving in the wrong direction for 3 blocks, and that's when he panicked. That is when he started hitting multiple pedestrians, they say. And after he actually tried to flee, apparently he also tried to punch a police officer. That is what the NYPD is saying right now. So again, no connection to terrorism that we know of right now. This is very much a fluid situation. You know how this goes. We're going to be learning much more over the next few hours of it.
Gio, those details are coming out incrementally here, and we thank you for bringing us up to date on that. As you mentioned, though, if it's true this driver was going the wrong way down one of these avenues, it's important we point out for people who aren't familiar with the way New York City streets work. A lot of these avenues only go in one direction. It's multiple lanes of traffic going in one direction. And if you aren't familiar or for whatever reason make that wrong turn, there's really no way to get out of it. So if that is in fact true, and of course as we learn more details, we'll bring them to you here live, but that is an incredibly dangerous situation. It looks like we're seeing the result of some of that right here. So Gio, describe for me, if you can, what it looks like now compared to what it usually looks like down in Times Square around this time.
Let me tell you, around this time, when you walk through Times Square, it is just full of people. So just take a look. It is just completely empty right there. I had mentioned that our Good Morning America studios are right there. This is a major spot for tourists to be walking through. This is where you have all of the restaurants, Bubba Gump Shrimp Company right there. You have all of the stores. You have so many people who are walking here, taking photographs. So potentially, when this car was moving through, you would have had many people just right there taking photographs with their family, getting that beautiful Times Square backdrop. So right now we do know that the NYPD, by the way, has now recovered video of this incident, that incident that we described of the driver driving the wrong way, crashing, hitting the pedestrians, and then trying to make a run for it. They say they now have video of the situation.
And Gio, as we know, there are cameras everywhere in that area, so hopefully that will help in their investigation to some degree, and we'll bring you details about that as we learn it. I think our colleague Charli James is also there in Times Square on the scene. Charli, can you hear me? Okay, we'll see if we can connect with Charli. I believe she was making her way there to Times Square as well. Gio, have you had a chance to talk to anyone there? You know, for anyone who heard about this story, likely may have learned about it through social media. If you go through Twitter right now, there are just scores of photos and firsthand accounts of people who were there, who saw what had happened unfold before them. Have you had a chance to talk to anyone there about what they may have seen or heard?
Well, these people that are right here, they actually came after the fact. They realized, they're all stopped here because they realized that they couldn't keep going any further. But a lot of these videos that you're seeing from Times Square are actually coming from hotels, because this area, as you know, is just lined with hotels that have that view overlooking Times Square. And by the way, as you can just see, I think we might have a clear shot right now. If Marley, if you can sort of go a little closer there, you can maybe see and make out the bumper that's right there. That is a block from where the car is right now. It's sort of at the center of your screen right now. That's a block from where the car is right now. So this car traveled quite a few blocks. Some people here, when I first got here, started saying that they thought that they saw a fire. We've seen the video with all of the smoke coming from that car. They thought that they saw the fire, that the car was on fire as it was plowing through this town here, this street.
In that area in particular, Gio, it had to be an absolutely terrifying thing for people to witness. And I should share with you now, the NYPD, who has, of course, been keeping the public up to date as quickly as possible as they learn more, just tweeted that confirming that one male is in custody in the Times Square vehicle collision. They also tweet, it's believed to be an isolated incident. It remains under investigation. So, of course, Gio, as you mentioned, something like this happens. The immediate thought, especially in a place like Times Square, especially in a city like New York, is, was this intentional? Was there some other motive? NYPD saying for now, it looks to be isolated, and that has to be relief for a lot of people there, Gio.
Absolutely, and that is for all of us who live here, who are constantly working here. So many of us at ABC work right here at 44th and Broadway, where our GMA studios are. And that is the first thing, quite honestly, that you think of what happened, because this place is constantly mentioned. This particular area is constantly mentioned in terror attacks. So thankfully, right now, or terror threats, I should say, thankfully, right now we know that this appears to be an isolated incident. It appears to be an accident at this point, but as you say, the NYPD is still playing it safe, saying that they are still investigating this.
And we'll follow that investigation as it goes. I think our colleague Charli James has made her way to Times Square now as well. Charli, can you hear me?
Hi, Amna. Yes, I can hear you. We are here at 7th Avenue and 42nd. And there are a lot of people, if we can pan a little bit, a lot of people trying to figure out what's going on. The police here trying to keep the situation under control as well. They keep moving people back further. The subway station you can see right here, the entrance, has been closed off. Now, 42nd Street Station is still open, but some of the entrances have been closed off. I mean, this is one of the biggest transit hubs in New York City as well. So they haven't closed it down completely, but they are making sure that people aren't coming in and out of this area. A lot of people confused as to how to get to the other side. Police sending them around because remember, well, yes, Times Square, we know it as such a tourist destination. There's also a lot of offices and even some apartment buildings right in this area. So people are trying to get to their homes and offices as well. And this has definitely disrupted the regular flow of life here in one of the biggest intersections in the world.
Charli, it's a good point you raised there that yes, it's a tourist hub, but there are also offices, thousands of people reporting to this area every day just to go to work on a regular basis. There are retail storefronts, it's a transit hub, and it is, we should mention, just blocks away from Penn Station, which is certainly one of the largest hubs in the country, if not in the Western Hemisphere. So just the possibility for this to have been much, much worse absolutely exists. And as we mentioned, when anything happens in New York, of course, it not only gets the attention of the rest of the country, but of the highest office in the land. We know now via a tweet from White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer that the president has been made aware of the situation in Times Square and will continue to receive updates. There you see that tweet from Sean Spicer, press secretary at the White House. And Charlie, if you're still with us there, it certainly speaks to the level of concern when this kind of incident happens on the ground, particularly in a place like New York.
That's right. In addition to the president being informed, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo also very quickly after this incident was first reported was said to be making his way down here to Times Square as well. New York City is always on alert for potential attacks. This does not look like it was a terrorist attack, but the NYPD really came out in force very quickly. We saw a really big increased presence, not just right around here, but in the trains. My producer and I took the train down here, and there was a police officer in our car. And then when we got off of the train, the station here at 42nd Street was full of officers. So the NYPD really coming out in force here to not only take that person into custody, but also control the crowds here and make sure that everyone is staying informed and calm.
Charlie, it's worth updating everyone now. We're getting some new numbers. As Gio had mentioned earlier, that we don't have full update on how many people were injured. The numbers may change as time goes on, but the FDNY, that's the Fire Department of New York, has now confirmed an updated patient count in the Times Square motor vehicle incident. That is now 19 injured and 1 fatality. We do not know the condition of those who were injured in this car crash, but it is fair now to call it's a fatal car crash. There was unfortunately 1 fatality as a result of this incident. 19 people as of now confirmed injured. And Charlie, maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the emergency personnel presence there. We're still hearing sirens in the background. We see some fire trucks there. Some people earlier reported seeing smoke and fire. Is there any trace of that that's still there?
So we are a couple of blocks down from where the car actually struck, but as you can see, there is still a lot of movement with police vehicles and fire vehicles coming in and out, large areas roped off with this police tape. And I just want to give a little bit more info for people who don't know New York City and Times Square of what Times Square looks like. It really is a mixed-use area. There is car traffic, but a lot of it has been changed in recent years to be more pedestrian friendly. Now it does appear from the pictures we're seeing that the silver barricades that have been put up in the pedestrian areas for this very purpose, to keep vehicles from being able to get into the pedestrian areas, worked. And the pictures that we've seen with the car up on top of those silver barricades, we can see that kept a lot more damage from potentially happening. So it's not exclusively a pedestrian area, and it does look like the car was kept from entering the pedestrian plaza in Times Square from those barricades.
Charlie, it's an excellent point you raise. If we can keep this picture up a little longer, it is absolutely worth pointing out that as much as it is a major thoroughfare in terms of traffic, those posts you see there, those sort of half silver barriers, those are a recent addition. That pedestrian area was redone. It used to be a street that now when you are driving down towards Times Square, you have to turn to continue your southbound journey because that is purely a pedestrian area for people to hang out and sit and enjoy and take pictures. Some of those iconic selfies a lot of people have seen all over social media. So at this time of day, man, as Gio mentioned earlier too, it's the middle of the day on a beautiful sunny day in New York. that area had to have been incredibly crowded. And if those posts had not been there, Charli, you can only imagine how much worse this could have been.
Right, and I imagine, we're in the height of tourist season here in New York as well. I imagine that's why a lot of people were fearing the worst in this situation, that if there was going to be an attack, we saw with the car bomb, I believe that was a couple of years ago, that was in Times Square, didn't go off, thankfully, but that this is an area that's a target. It's a famous area around the world, and if somebody did want to attack New York, this could be an area that would be targeted. So I think that is why a lot of people feared the worst in this situation. But as we've heard from the police department, it does appear that this was just an incident of driving under the influence and not of any sort of attack on pedestrians, a purposeful attack on pedestrians here in Times Square.
And we'll bring the latest on that investigation, of course, as we learn it. Charli James, live in Times Square. Thanks so much, Charli. Our thanks to Gio Benitez as well for his reporting, and thanks to you for watching. Stay with us here for the latest on this incident, this car crash in Times Square, or you can go to abcnews.com for more. For now, I'm Amna Nawaz, and I'll see you back here soon.